Svalbard Global Seed Vault. In the frozen, desolate wilderness of the Arctic, nestled deep within the rocky cliffs of the Svalbard archipelago, lies a mysterious vault. A vault that holds the very essence of life itself, thousands of seeds from every corner of the globe, carefully preserved and waiting for a day that may never come. But why, in the most remote place on Earth, would anyone create such a place? What are these seeds for? Who would need them? And why have they been stored in a place so isolated, so inhospitable? Today, we journey into the heart of one of the world's most cryptic structures, a vault built to withstand the test of time, of natural disaster, and even the fall of civilization itself. But is it really a place of hope and preservation, or is it something far darker and more enigmatic than we could ever imagine? Welcome to the mystery of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault, a place that holds secrets and raises questions that have yet to be fully answered. As we peel back the layers of its history, its purpose, and the many unanswered questions surrounding it, you might begin to wonder, what are they really preparing for? Who built it? The Svalbard Global Seed Vault opened its doors in 2008, but its origins go far deeper than its relatively young age suggests. The vault was constructed by the Norwegian government with the goal of protecting the genetic diversity of our planet's most important crops. But while this sounds like a noble mission, the truth behind the decision to build such a facility in one of the most remote places on Earth is far from clear. Who are the minds behind this project? And why choose Svalbard, an island so close to the North Pole that it is almost completely cut off from the world for months at a time? In many ways, the location itself speaks volumes. The isolation, the permafrost, and the sheer difficulty of reaching the island would all make this an incredibly secure location. But what did they know that made them choose this place over all others? The answer is not as simple as it seems. While the project was spearheaded by the Norwegian government, there were powerful global organizations involved as well, from the United Nations to the Global Crop Diversity Trust, and even corporate players in agriculture. The mystery, however, deepens when you consider the timing. What were these organizations anticipating in the mid-2000s that prompted them to secure such a massive genetic archive? Was it simply climate change and global food insecurity, or was there something more? Some speculate that the Svalbard Global Seed Vault was built as a response to growing geopolitical tensions, resource scarcity, or even the possibility of a global catastrophe. Others believe the real motivation lies in the quiet, almost foreboding nature of the island itself. A place that might, in some twisted sense, serve as humanity's final ark. But even the most carefully planned vaults don't exist without a trace of mystery. Why was the project fast-tracked, with little public consultation? Why did it seem to be built with such military precision? And why is so much of the vault's inner workings shrouded in secrecy? The mystery. For all of its acclaim and attention, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is, in many ways, a monument to the unknown. The general public knows only a fraction of what's hidden inside its thick, reinforced walls. What exactly is stored there? And why are so many of its contents not listed in any public records? The sheer scale of the seed collection is staggering, with over 1 million samples from thousands of plant species across the world, carefully stored in airtight, temperature-controlled chambers. But even though we know a lot about what the vault is meant to protect, much of its inner workings remain obscured. For example, the vault is supposed to serve as a safeguard against disasters, but what kinds of disasters are we really talking about? The more you dig into the design of the facility, the more unsettling questions begin to arise. There are rumors of additional, unmarked chambers that might hold more than just seeds. Could the vault be a cover for something else entirely? Is it possible that behind its walls, there are not just seeds, but other, more controversial materials? Some even speculate that the vault could be hiding genetic research, biological samples, or other materials that governments and corporations want to keep secret. Then, there's the disturbing fact that the vault is not just a symbol of preservation, but also of containment. If you look at the way the seeds are stored, isolated, locked away from the world, it raises the question, is this vault designed to safeguard life or to guard against it? And if it's meant to protect future generations, why is it so hard to get basic information about it? What exactly are they preparing for? Perhaps the most haunting mystery surrounding the seed vault is its name itself, global. Who exactly is included in that global concept? And, perhaps even more chilling, who is excluded? Who controls the future of the world's food supply? And who has access to the vault when it's needed? Why? The question of why the vault was built leads us into a fascinating web of theories and speculations. On the surface, the answer seems simple. The seed vault was designed as a safeguard, a place to store humanity's agricultural lifeblood in case of catastrophic events. But is that really the entire story? The official explanation is that the seed vault is meant to protect global food security by providing a backup supply of seeds that could be used to regenerate crops in the event of a disaster, be it climate change, nuclear war, or something else entirely. But is that all there is to it? Some theorists suggest that the vault may not only be a precautionary measure, but a deliberate plan to control the world's food supply in the future. As resources become more scarce, some fear that those who control the seeds will hold all the power. Could the seed vault be part of a larger strategy to consolidate power in the hands of a few elite organizations or nations? Others speculate that the vault could have been designed as an insurance policy against some sort of technological collapse. In a world increasingly reliant on genetically modified crops and high-tech farming methods, what happens when the system breaks down? Could the seed vault be humanity's last hope to return to traditional agricultural methods, should our modern food supply systems fail? There's also the more frightening idea that the vault could be part of a larger agenda of genetic engineering. What if the seeds stored inside the vault have been altered, modified, or curated in ways that are not immediately apparent? If so, could the vault serve as a breeding ground for something much darker than we have imagined? Hidden secrets. As we peel back the layers of the Svalbard seed vault, we begin to uncover darker and more obscure details that have been intentionally hidden. For example, did you know that the seed vault has been the site of multiple unexplained incidents? In 2015, the vault experienced its first major failure when a large amount of melting permafrost began seeping into the facility. Some researchers claim that this incident was an indication that the structure may not be as impervious to climate change as we had once thought. If the permafrost is melting at a rapid pace, does that mean the vault itself is slowly becoming compromised? Then there's the curious case of the Norwegian government's silence. For a facility built to protect the future of the planet, why has there been so little public information about it? Some claim that the government has deliberately kept quiet about the vault's inner workings, leading to suspicions that there's more to the seed vault than anyone has been told. And let's not forget about the strange, cryptic symbols on the vault itself, symbols that have been the subject of much debate. What do they mean? Are they simply decorative? Or do they hold a deeper, more secretive significance? Some believe these symbols are part of a code, perhaps relating to ancient or forgotten civilizations, or even something more extraterrestrial. Finally, there's the disturbing notion that the seed vault may one day be used for something far more sinister. Could it be that the vault is not a sanctuary, but a storehouse for genetic material that could one day be used to control the future of humanity? Expert views. Many experts believe that the true purpose of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is simple. It's a backup for humanity's agricultural future. The theory goes that in the event of a global catastrophe, humanity could use the seeds to rebuild its food systems. Some experts argue that the vault is an essential part of our survival strategy, especially in the face of rising climate change and the destruction of biodiversity. However, there are others who disagree, suggesting that the vault is part of a larger, more complex plan. Some researchers believe that the vault could be linked to the consolidation of global power, that the few who control the vault's contents will have the power to decide who survives and who doesn't. Others argue that the seeds inside the vault may not be as pure as they seem, and that the real purpose of the vault is far more nefarious than we realize. Despite these differing opinions, one thing is clear. The mystery of the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is far from over. It may be a symbol of hope for some, but for others, it represents a chilling glimpse into the future. A future where survival depends on who holds the key to humanity's agricultural past. Conclusion. In the end, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault remains a place of both hope and fear, a safeguard against disaster, or perhaps a symbol of something more ominous. As we've explored the many mysteries surrounding the vault, one thing has become clear. There, Bank of England vaults. Beneath the bustling streets of London, hidden away from the public eye, lies a vault of immense secrecy and power. The Bank of England vaults. The Bank of England, often seen as the heart of Britain's financial system, holds more than just the nation's wealth. It stores something far more profound, the very lifeblood of the economy itself. But what lies beneath those heavy doors? What is kept behind miles of security and layers of history? And why does this hidden vault, almost like an ancient fortress, continue to fuel countless rumors, mysteries, and whispered secrets? While most of us think of the Bank of England as just a central bank, managing interest rates and monetary policy, there's something far darker and more enigmatic in its depths. Gold. Not just any gold, but the world's largest collection of the precious metal, locked away in vast, shadowy chambers. But this isn't just a safe haven for precious metal. It holds a strange, ancient connection to power and secrecy. Today, we dive deep into the vaults of the Bank of England, a place so secretive that only a few people in the world truly understand what goes on behind its steel doors. A place that has shaped nations and economies, and yet remains one of the most tightly guarded financial mysteries of our time. What are the true purposes of the Bank of England vaults? And why does the very mention of them conjure up such intrigue and secrecy? Who built it? The story of the Bank of England vaults begins in the 17th century, long before the glistening skyscrapers and bustling banks of the modern financial district. The original Bank of England was founded in 1694 by Sir John Houblon, as a way to raise funds for the Crown and stabilize Britain's increasingly complex finances. But back then, the Bank of England was just another small financial institution, nothing like the vast and powerful entity it is today. The vaults themselves, however, were not constructed overnight. As the British Empire expanded and its economy boomed, the Bank of England's role grew ever more crucial. By the 18th century, the institution was no longer just a place for holding national wealth. It became a repository for gold, foreign reserves, and the currency that powered an empire. It wasn't until the Bank of England's relocation to its current location on Threadneedle Street in 1734 that the vaults were truly constructed. Designed to hold Britain's growing reserves, these vaults became an impenetrable fortress of wealth, with rooms filled with gold bars, coins, and bonds. The architects behind the vaults, likely unknown to most today, used state-of-the-art engineering of the time, high security and unbreakable locks, to ensure that the treasures of Britain and its empire would remain secure. However, while the vault's history is well documented, there are peculiar gaps. The sheer scale and intensity of the vault's construction raises questions. Was the Bank of England anticipating the tumultuous events that were to come? Was the vault not only a place to safeguard treasure, but also a silent witness to the volatile forces of war, politics, and economy that were on the horizon? The mystery. Despite the visible security, the Bank of England vaults remain an enigma, mostly closed off from public knowledge. Much of what happens inside is shrouded in layers of secrecy, but as we dig deeper, we find a treasure trove of mysteries, controversies, and unanswered questions surrounding the vaults. For one, there's the question of who truly owns the gold stored in the vaults. Officially, the Bank of England holds the gold of central banks in countries around the world. But the sheer scale of this collection raises many questions. How much of it truly belongs to the bank? What happens if a country asks for its gold back? And why is it stored in such an isolated, secure location, away from prying eyes? In 2012, the German government became embroiled in a mystery that brought global attention to the Bank of England's vaults. For years, Germany had stored a significant portion of its national gold reserves in London. But when the German central bank, Deutsche Bundesbank, asked to repatriate some of its gold, it was met with resistance. The process took far longer than expected, and some of the gold was even melted down, sparking rumors of tampering or misappropriation. Why did the Bank of England hesitate to return the gold? Was it a simple logistical challenge, or was there something more sinister at play? The truth remains unclear, and some still wonder if the vaults are holding far more than they let on. Another strange feature of the vaults is the security system. The vaults are said to be virtually impenetrable, but how much is really known about the depth of this security? What if the vaults could be bypassed by someone with enough knowledge of the system? Are there secret passages, forgotten doors, or even hidden compartments that no one knows about? Perhaps the most intriguing mystery is the vault's true purpose. Are they simply a repository for gold and currency? Or do they house something far more valuable, something that the Bank of England would prefer to keep hidden, even from the eyes of the government or the public? The thought that there may be more than gold, perhaps financial instruments, secret records, or even highly sensitive documents, raises the stakes considerably. The vaults, it seems, are a place where more than just wealth is kept under lock and key. What if the vault is a place where the true balance of global power is held? The documents, decisions, and agreements that dictate the course of the world's financial system. Why? The primary reason for the Bank of England vault's existence seems simple: to safeguard the wealth and assets of the United Kingdom and many other countries. But the deeper why is more difficult to explain. Could the vaults serve a higher, more complex purpose than just storing gold? One theory is that these vaults are not just a symbol of national power, but a way for the elite to maintain control over the global economy. As the Bank of England holds gold and other national reserves, it could exert tremendous influence over the economic health of nations, whether through debt, currency manipulation, or the control of financial systems. This would suggest that the vaults could hold the key to global power, potentially more so than any country's individual reserves. Some even argue that the Bank of England vaults represent a history of secretive control over global monetary policy. As the British Empire once ruled vast parts of the world, the Bank of England could have been instrumental in manipulating currency and shaping international trade. Even in the present day, the bank's vaults remain critical to Britain's political influence and to global financial markets. Then, there's the much darker theory that the vaults are not merely holding gold, but storing information. Information so sensitive that it cannot be kept in government records, but must be hidden away in a secure location, known only to a select few. In such a volatile world, the true control over money may be about far more than just the physical assets themselves. The vaults might be a living archive of global economic history, a place where decisions are made and executed in silence, shaping the world in ways that none of us will ever fully understand. Hidden secrets. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Bank of England vaults is that despite its massive influence and importance, very little is known about the inner workings of the vaults themselves. But if we scratch the surface, we uncover some very strange, lesser-known facts. For example, while the official narrative of the vaults is that they house national reserves and a small quantity of British gold, there are reports of unlisted assets and disputed ownership claims. Some have even suggested that there are hidden chambers or secret compartments within the vaults, rooms that are not part of the public security protocols. In fact, some former employees of the Bank of England have hinted at hidden, unaccounted-for treasure, and rumors persist that the vaults may hold far more than just physical gold. Could the bank be hiding a financial history that is far darker than we could imagine? What about documents or investments that could unravel the entire financial system if they were ever exposed? One particularly disturbing rumor is that the vaults might contain ancient, forgotten assets, holdings that were accumulated during the early days of British imperialism, perhaps even from conquered colonies whose resources were siphoned off over the centuries. Additionally, the vaults are often referred to as a symbol of security, but in truth, their absolute security might be more of an illusion. The dangerous allure of these gold reserves is that, if they are tampered with or compromised, the world economy could be thrown into chaos. Some even claim that the vault's security is not as unbreakable as it seems, and the idea that they are impenetrable could be a convenient cover for more covert operations. Fort Knox Vault. There is a place in the United States where truth becomes rumor, where facts blur into legend, and where even asking the wrong question can feel dangerous. A place surrounded by fences, armed patrols, and layers of silence. A place that almost no one alive has ever truly seen from the inside. Deep in the rolling hills of Kentucky stands a squat, unassuming building made of granite and steel. No towering spires, no dramatic architecture, just cold stone, heavy doors, and an unspoken warning. Do not come closer. This is Fort Knox. For decades, it has been called the most secure place on Earth. A vault so protected that breaking into it is considered impossible. A fortress rumored to hold one of the greatest concentrations of wealth in human history. But here's the problem. No one can agree on what's actually inside. Is it overflowing with gold, exactly as we've been told? Is it partially empty, quietly drained long ago? Or does it hold something else entirely? Something far more important than metal? Tonight, we're not just asking what Fort Knox is. We're asking why it exists, who controls it, and what secrets might be buried behind doors that have not been opened in generations. Because sometimes the most powerful mysteries aren't hidden underground, they're hidden in plain sight. Who built it? Fort Knox did not begin as a vault. It began as a military installation. In 1936, during a time when the world was edging closer to war and economic instability still haunted the United States, the government made a decision that would quietly reshape history. They needed a place deep inland, far from coastlines, far from enemies, where America's most valuable assets could be protected at all costs. Kentucky was chosen for a reason. It was geographically central, hard to reach, easy to defend, and already home to military infrastructure. The building that would become the United States Bullion Depository was constructed with one purpose: absolute security. The materials alone were extreme: thick granite walls, reinforced concrete, steel weighing hundreds of tons. The vault door itself, legendary in its own right, was designed to resist explosives, torches, drills, and time itself. But the speed of construction raised eyebrows even then. This wasn't a slow, cautious project. It moved fast, quietly, efficiently, almost as if the government believed it was racing against an invisible clock. Officially, the vault was built to store gold, specifically, gold moved from coastal banks after the U.S. government recalled privately held gold under new laws. Citizens turned in their coins and bars. The gold had to go somewhere, and Fort Knox was ready. But from the beginning, secrecy wrapped itself around the site like a second wall. The exact blueprints were classified. Access lists were microscopic. Even many high-ranking officials were never allowed inside. And that secrecy never lifted. Not after the war. Not after the gold standard ended. Not even decades later. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If Fort Knox was built for a specific moment in history, why did it remain so untouchable long after that moment passed? The mystery. Ask the average person what's inside Fort Knox, and you'll get a simple answer: gold, thousands of tons of it. Gold bars stacked high. Wealth beyond imagination. Enough to back a nation. But here's where the mystery begins, because almost no one alive can confirm that. The last full public audit of Fort Knox happened decades ago, and even that audit was limited, carefully controlled, observed under strict supervision. Journalists weren't allowed free access. Independent verification was minimal, and many of the people who saw the gold saw only small portions of the vault. So, what do we really know? We know the U.S. government claims Fort Knox holds roughly half of the nation's gold reserves. We know the vault is guarded 24/7 by military forces. We know the location is surrounded by sensors, surveillance, and armed response units. But what we don't know is what's changed over time. Gold has been quietly moved before. During wars, financial crises, and geopolitical shifts, nations have secretly sold reserves, transferred assets, used gold as leverage. So the question becomes unavoidable. Has Fort Knox always held what we've been told it holds? Some researchers point to inconsistencies in government reports. Others note that despite inflation, debt, and massive economic changes, Fort Knox remains largely untouched in official narratives. Why? Why not show the gold more often, if it's really there? Why does a democracy rely so heavily on trust when it comes to the physical foundation of its currency? And then there are the rumors. Stories of sealed chambers no one talks about. Of areas within the vault that are off limits even to authorized staff. Of movements at night that never appear in records. There is no proof of these claims, but the silence surrounding Fort Knox keeps them alive. Because silence in places like this has a way of becoming suspicious. Why? So why does Fort Knox exist today? Officially, its original purpose has faded. The U.S. no longer backs its currency with gold. Paper money floats freely. Digital numbers now define wealth. Yet the vault remains one of the most protected locations on Earth. Why? One theory is symbolic power. Gold may no longer back the dollar, but it still represents stability, confidence, a last resort in times of collapse. Knowing that it exists somewhere helps maintain trust in the system. Another theory is geopolitical insurance. In a world where currencies can crash overnight, gold remains universal. It doesn't rely on servers. It doesn't need electricity. It can't be hacked. If global systems fail, gold still holds value. But there's a darker possibility. What if Fort Knox isn't just about money? What if it's about control? Control over belief, control over fear, control over the idea that someone, somewhere, still holds the ultimate safeguard. Some suggest that the vault's real purpose is psychological, a financial myth made real, a physical anchor for an abstract system. As long as Fort Knox exists, people believe there is a backup plan, and belief in economics is everything. Hidden secrets. There are details about Fort Knox that rarely make headlines. For example, the vault has been used to store more than gold. At different times in history, it reportedly housed priceless documents, national treasures, and cultural artifacts during wartime. This means Fort Knox has functioned not just as a bank, but as a sanctuary, which raises a question. If it could store more than gold before, what might it store now? Some believe the vault may hold emergency reserves beyond precious metals, strategic assets, rare materials, or even physical backups of critical data stored offline, unreachable by cyber threats. Others go further. They suggest Fort Knox could contain classified items tied to national security, objects too sensitive to name, materials whose existence isn't meant to be public knowledge. Again, there is no confirmed evidence. But Fort Knox's refusal to fully open itself to scrutiny keeps these ideas alive. And then there's the strangest detail of all. Despite all the technology available today, cameras, live streams, transparent audits, there has never been a full, independent, public verification of the vault's contents. Not once. In an age obsessed with visibility, Fort Knox remains opaque, and opacity breeds questions. Expert views. Many experts insist the mystery is overstated. They argue Fort Knox is exactly what it claims to be, a secure storage facility for gold and other reserves, nothing more, nothing less. From this perspective, secrecy isn't suspicious, it's necessary. Advertising exact contents would make the vault a target. Silence equals safety. Others, however, are less convinced. Some economists argue that the lack of transparency is a problem, that trust without verification is fragile, and that myths, once broken, can cause massive instability. There are also historians who point out that governments throughout history have quietly altered, moved, or redefined their reserves during times of crisis. Not always maliciously, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of desperation. The experts don't agree on what Fort Knox is, but they do agree on one thing. Its power comes not just from what it holds, but from what people believe it holds. Conclusion. Fort Knox stands silent. It does not explain itself. It does not defend itself. It does not reveal its truth, and maybe that's the point. Because whether it is full of gold, partially empty, or guarding something else entirely, Fort Knox has already done its job. It has become a symbol, a promise, a warning, a mystery too big to ignore and too powerful to expose. Perhaps the gold is there, perhaps it isn't. But as long as the doors remain closed, as long as the vault stays silent, the question will never truly disappear. And maybe, in the end, the greatest secret of Fort Knox isn't what's inside the vault. It's why we're not allowed to know.